League of Legends, Aatrox, the Darkin Blade.
Whether mistaken for a demon or a god, many tales had been told of the Darkin Blade, but few know his real name or the story of his fall. Aatrox was his name. He was at the vanguard of every noble conflict. So true and just was his conduct that other god warriors would always gather at his side, and 10,000 mortals of Shurima marched behind him. When Seteka, the ascended warrior queen, called for his help against the rebellion of Ikatia, Aatrox answered without hesitation. But no one predicted the extent of the horrors that rebels would unleash. The void quickly overwhelmed its Icatian masters and began the grinding annihilation of all life it encountered. After many years of desperate battle, Aatrox and his brethren finally halted the void perverse advance and seared the largest reef shots, but the surviving ascendant, the self-described Sunborn, had been forever changed by what they had encountered. Though Shurima had triumphed, they all had lost something in their victory, even noble Aatrox. And in time, Shurima fell as all empires must. Without any monarch to defend, or the existential threat of the void to test them, Aatrox and the Sunborn began to clash with one another, and eventually this became a war for the rulings of their world. Mortals fleeing the conflict came to know, and then instead by a new scornful name, the Darkin. Fearing that this falling ascendant were as dangerous from terrorist survival as the void incursions had been, the Targonians intervened. It is said that the aspect of twilight gave mortals the knowledge to trap the Darkin, and newly reborn as the aspect of war, united men in fighting backs against them. Never fearing any foe, Aatrox and his armies were ready, and he realized only too late that they had been deceived. A force greater than 1,000 dead suns pulled him inside the sword he had carried into battle countless times, and forever bound his immortal essence to it. The weapon was a prison, sealing his consciousness in suffocating, eternal darkness, robbing him even of the ability to die. For centuries, he strained against this hellish confinement, until some nameless mortal was foolish enough to try and wield the blade once more. Aatrox seized upon this opportunity, forcing his will and an imitation of his original form onto his bearer. Through the process quickly drained all life from the new body. In the years that followed, Aatrox grew many more host men and women of exceptional vitality or fortitude. Through his grasp of such magic had been limited in life, he learned to take control of the mortal in the span of single breath, and in battle he discovered he could feast on his victim to build himself even larger and stronger. Aatrox traveled the land, searching desperately, endlessly for a way to return to his previous ascended form. But the riddle of the blade proved unsolvable, and in time, he realized he would never be free of it. The flesh he stole, in crudely shaped, began to feel like a mockery of his former glory, a cage only slightly larger than the sword. Despair and loathing grew in his heart. The heavenly powers that Aatrox had once embodied had been wiped from the world and all memory. Raging against this injustice, he arrived at a solution that could only be born of a prisoner's desperation. If he could not destroy the blade or free himself, then he would embrace oblivion instead. Now Aatrox marches toward this merciless goal, bringing war and death wherever he goes. He clings to a blind hope. If he can drive all of creations into a final, apocalyptic battle where everything else is destroyed, then maybe he and the blade will also cease to exist.